My name is Emma, and I was supposed to walk out of the hospital after a routine back surgery. Instead, I left in a wheelchair. The doctors called it an unexplained complication, but I knew better. I saw Marcus's smirk that night, right before everything went wrong. Growing up, Marcus was always the golden child. 3 years older than me, captain of the football team, straight A student, he could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. His pranks were always dismissed as boys being boys, even when they crossed the line. Like the time he pushed me down the stairs because he wanted to see if I could fly. I broke my arm, but Mom just said I should have been more careful. The back surgery was meant to correct a herniated disc, nothing major. I'd been dealing with chronic pain for months, and finally the doctors agreed surgery was the best option. Marcus made jokes about it the whole week before. "Maybe they'll give you a new spine since you clearly don't have one," he'd say at dinner, making our parents chuckle. Or, "Don't worry, Em, I'll take good care of you while you're recovering." Something in his tone made my skin crawl. The surgery went well. I remember waking up groggy but relieved that it was over. The nurse explained that I needed to lie still for 24 hours, keeping my back perfectly aligned while the initial healing began. Any movement could compromise the procedure. "Don't worry," Marcus told my parents. "I'll stay with her tonight. You guys go home and rest." They were so proud of their son, stepping up to take care of his little sister. If only they'd stayed. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, the pain medication making everything hazy. Around midnight, I felt someone adjusting my bed. Through blurred vision, I saw Marcus standing over me. "Time for a little fun, sis," he whispered. "Let's see how tough you really are." I tried to speak, to call for help, but my throat was too dry. The next thing I knew, my bed was moving. Not just the normal slight adjustments, but violent shaking. Marcus was rocking it back and forth, laughing quietly. "Stop," I managed to croak out. "Please, Marcus." "Oh, come on, it's just a joke. Besides, no one will believe you anyway." They never do. The pain was excruciating. I could feel something shift in my back, a white-hot agony that made me want to scream. But he was right. No one would believe me. They never had before. When the morning nurse found me, I couldn't feel my legs. The doctors rushed in, ordered scans, looked bewildered at what they found. The careful repair work from the surgery had been completely disrupted. "I don't understand," the surgeon said, reviewing the scans. "This kind of damage. It's as if someone deliberately moved you during the critical healing period." Marcus stood by my parents, the picture of concerned brother. "She was fine when I left to use the bathroom." He lied smoothly. "Maybe she moved in her sleep." That's when the hospital administrator mentioned the security cameras. Marcus's smile flickered for just a second. "Standard procedure," she explained. "All rooms have 24-hour surveillance for patient safety." Let me pull up last night's footage. I'll never forget the sound of my mother's gasp as they watched the video. Marcus's face went from confident to ashen in seconds. The footage showed everything: his midnight visit, the violent shaking of my bed, his laughter as I begged him to stop. "It was just a joke," he stammered as our father turned to him, face contorted with rage. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." But this time, no one was laughing. This time, there was proof. The doctors said I might never walk again. The damage to my spine during those critical post-surgery hours was severe. But watching my brother finally face consequences for his actions, that was just the beginning. The days following the security footage revelation were a blur of doctors, police officers, and family tensions that could cut like a knife. My parents, who had spent years defending Marcus's behavior, were suddenly faced with undeniable evidence of what their son was capable of. "We're pressing charges," my father announced, his voice shaking with a rage I'd never heard before. Marcus stood in the corner of my hospital room, no longer the confident golden boy, but a pale shadow of himself. "Dad, please," he begged. "It was just supposed to be a prank. I didn't mean to." "To what?" Mom interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "To paralyze your sister. To destroy her life for your amusement." How many other pranks were more than just jokes, Marcus? I saw something shift in her eyes as she asked that question. 22 years of incidents suddenly being reevaluated, seen through a new lens. The accidental push down the stairs. The time my bike brakes failed because Marcus had been fixing them. The mysterious disappearance of my allergy medication during a school camping trip. The police took statements from everyone's voice. The nurses, the doctors, me. They reviewed the security footage multiple times. Detective Sanders, a stern-faced woman with kind eyes, sat by my bedside with a notebook. This shows a pattern of deliberate harm, she explained gently. The footage clearly demonstrates intent. Your brother knew what he was doing. Marcus was arrested that afternoon. I watched from my hospital window as they led him to the police car, our neighbors gathering on their lawns to witness the golden child's fall from grace. His football scholarship to state was revoked the next day. But the real shock came when other people started coming forward. Your brother pushed me down the gym stairs senior year, my old classmate Jessica wrote in a Facebook message. He said it was an accident, but he was laughing. No one believed me, because well, he was Marcus. More stories emerged. A trail of accidents and pranks that had followed my brother through high school and college. Each victim had stayed quiet, knowing they'd never be believed over the charming star athlete. My parents were devastated. Dad aged years and weeks, and Mom could barely look at family photos without breaking down. They spent every day at the hospital with me, attending physical therapy sessions, meeting with specialists, as if they could make up for years of blindness with constant presence now. We should have seen it, Mom whispered one evening, holding my hand as I struggled through another painful therapy session. All those times you tried to tell us. Why didn't we listen? Dad added, his voice rough with emotion. The hardest part wasn't the physical therapy, or the pain. It was watching my parents grapple with their guilt, seeing them realize how their favoritism had enabled Marcus's behavior to escalate. They'd created a monster by refusing to see the truth. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint it as a youthful indiscretion, a joke gone wrong. But the security footage told a different story. The calculated way he'd waited until late at night, his laughter as I begged him to stop, the deliberate violence of his actions, none of it looked like a prank. The preliminary hearing was held while I was still in the hospital. I attended via video link, watching on a tablet as my brother pleaded not guilty, despite the overwhelming evidence. His once charming smile now looked more like a sneer. Your brother's looking at serious time, Detective Sanders told me after the hearing. Aggravated assault, grievous bodily harm, the DA's pushing for the maximum sentence. The news spread through our small town like wildfire. Former friends of Marcus's suddenly remembered other incidents, other jokes that had seemed cruel but were dismissed. The perfect facade he'd maintained for so long was crumbling, revealing the darkness underneath. My parents sold our family home, unable to live with the memories it held. They found a single-story house, better suited for my wheelchair, closer to the rehabilitation center. Every family photo featuring Marcus was packed away in boxes, stored in the attic like the painful secrets we'd ignored for too long. We're going to make this right, Dad promised, as they helped me settle into my new room. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. I looked at my parents, seeing them clearly for the first time in years. They were flawed, human, guilty of enabling Marcus's behavior through their willful blindness. But they were trying to make amends. As I lay in my new bed that night, I thought about the security camera that had finally exposed the truth. One piece of indisputable evidence had accomplished what years of my warnings and pleas could not. Marcus could no longer hide behind his charm and our parents' denial. The trial was approaching, and with it would come more revelations, more painful truths about the brother I thought I knew. But for the first time in my life, I knew that when I spoke up, people would believe me. The courthouse was packed on the first day of Marcus's trial. It seemed like the entire town had come to watch the Golden Boy's downfall. I sat in my wheelchair at the front, my parents beside me, as the prosecutor laid out the case. What we'll show you today, she began, is not just one incident of violence, but a pattern of behavior that culminated in a deliberate act that left a young woman paralyzed. The security footage played on the large screen. Even though I'd seen it multiple times, watching it in the courtroom was different. The collective gasp from the audience as they watched Marcus violently shake my hospital bed, his quiet laughter as I begged him to stop, it made it all real in a way it hadn't been before. Marcus sat at the defense table, wearing a suit that seemed too big for him now. He'd lost weight in jail, and his usual confident smirk was replaced by something darker. He wouldn't look at me, but I could see him flinch every time the video showed him returning to shake my bed again and again. Jessica testified about the stairs incident, her voice shaking but determined. He waited until we were alone, she said. Then he pushed me and laughed, saying no one would ever believe me, because I was just a nobody, and he was Marcus. Other witnesses followed. The nurse who'd found me paralyzed that morning. The doctors who explained in clinical detail how the movement had devastated my newly repaired spine. My physical therapist, who detailed the long painful road ahead of me. Then it was my turn. As I was wheeled to the witness stand, I finally caught Marcus's eye. For a split second, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. He was afraid, not of jail, but of finally being seen for who he really was. Emma, the prosecutor began, can you tell us about your relationship with your brother? I took a deep breath and started talking. I told them everything. The years of pranks that were really attacks, the way he'd manipulate our parents, how he seemed to enjoy causing pain while maintaining his perfect image. The night of the surgery, I said, my voice steady. When he came into my room, he told me something. He said, no one will believe you anyway. They never do. And he was right. Until that security camera caught him, no one ever had. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint it as a joke gone wrong, a momentary lapse in judgment. But the evidence was too strong. The security footage, the witness testimonies, the medical reports, the years of documented incidents that everyone had dismissed. The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty on all counts, the forewoman announced. The sentence came down hard, 15 years, no chance of early parole. As they led Marcus away, he finally spoke directly to me. I'm sorry, he said, but his eyes told a different story. He was sorry he got caught, sorry his perfect life was over, not sorry for what he'd done. My parents held each other, crying quietly. Their perfect family was shattered, but maybe that was necessary. Sometimes things need to break completely before they can be rebuilt properly. After the trial, our story made national news. I received messages from people across the country sharing similar experiences with siblings, the way family dynamics can hide abuse, how often pranks are used to disguise cruelty. I started a support group for victims of sibling abuse. We meet weekly in the rehabilitation center where I still do physical therapy. Some days are harder than others. Some days the pain, both physical and emotional, seems unbearable. But I'm getting stronger. The doctors say I might regain some mobility with intensive therapy. It's a long shot, but I'm fighting for it. Every small movement, every tiny victory, feels like justice. My parents are in therapy too, learning to confront their role in enabling Marcus's behavior. They visit him in prison, but they're different now. More aware, more willing to see the truth. Last week I received a letter from Marcus. I haven't opened it. Maybe I never will. Some bridges once burned should stay ashes. The security camera footage that changed everything is still saved on a USB drive in my desk drawer. Sometimes I think about that night, about how one piece of technology exposed what years of words couldn't. It makes me wonder how many other Marcuses are out there, hiding behind perfect smiles and family protection. But at least this one can't hurt anyone else. I wheel myself to physical therapy each morning, past the security cameras in the hallways. They don't make me nervous anymore. Instead, they remind me that sometimes the truth needs to be seen to be believed. And finally everyone sees the truth about Marcus. The end.